Jumping right in, we want to first start talking about what exactly is a family. So how do we define family, and what is the purpose of a family? And then what do different families look like around the world and in different cultures? So really what's important to take away from what a family is cast aside your idea of a family, however you personally define it. And think about families as a group of related people who are fulfilling similar functions around the world in different societies. So this is a similarity between families around the world, is that they're providing these functions listed there for you for the members of the family. Okay. A lot of times that is just a sense of identity, a place to belong, comfort, support, an emotional safety net for you. And then deeper level, we've got some shared values, ideals, and then really getting into the meat of it, you have economic cooperation, and then a place that secures and guarantees almost reproduction and nurturing of children. Okay, so a family serves all of these functions, even if it looks different, even if it is two men or two women, or a husband, a wife, and the children, or more of an extended situation where you have a husband, wife, and then the grandparents along with the children. Whatever the family looks like, it's really serving to fulfill these same functions. Okay, and then how these goals are achieved is what we're talking about when we talk about kinship. So a family is that group of people, and a kinship or kinship system is the pattern of achieving these goals. So that's just this, by definition, the social system that organizes people into families, and that's going to be based on descent and or marriage, both of which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Another important thing to remember is that, like pretty much every aspect of culture, families are dynamic. And what we mean by that is pretty much what we mean whenever we use this term, is that they're not permanent, they're not static, and families are changing. So what we mean by changing is that people can leave the family, they can come into the family, and families can just change in the members or the function that they're providing. Okay, so you start your life with your natal family, and that's the family that you're born into, and a lot of times you're raised in that family as well. But that doesn't mean you have to be raised in that family. But once you leave that family is now changed a bit, or maybe you get married, and so your family becomes you and your husband and your children instead of you and your mom and your dad. So the idea here is just that, like everything we study with culture, for the most part, they're very dynamic and they're going to be changing. So we have a lot of ideals in culture. Some of those revolve around what the family should look like, or what is the perfect family. And there are a lot of different ideas out there. Some of them revolve around the perfect husband or the perfect wife, or being the perfect child, what the perfect home should look like, and all of these things that are related to a family or raising children. Okay. Oftentimes, the reality of family and the ideal type are not the same. Okay, and that's why it's called an ideal type. It's not necessarily something that's even achievable, but it's something to be striving for. We hear a lot in the U.S. about striving for a traditional family or a traditional marriage, traditional family values. Remember, when we talked about tradition, we talked about the fact that it feels very stable and very long-term, and like tradition is how things have always been, when that really isn't the case. Remember that traditions are often quite new, within a decade or so. So when we're talking about traditional marriage or traditional family, there is very little specification about which tradition we're actually referring to. So this use of the word tradition in this context of family kind of gives us a bit of nostalgia and a feeling for something that we don't really know what we're missing. And it's trying to push us towards this ideal type, but remember that ideal type is always changing because families are dynamic.